So I was told to talk about the future, and I thought, what better way to start than Justin Bieber? Depressing. Let me actually ask a few questions of the people here. How many of you, and be honest, have checked your email today? Raise your hands. Even BlackBerry. How many of you checked your email during this session? Okay. How many of you have checked a financial statement in the last day? How about the last week? Investment accounts, savings accounts, credit card bill, nearly everyone. Neither Justin nor I can be blamed for the bad news. How many of you have checked your energy usage today? How about this week? We have a few nerds sitting here. But this is an audience of people who care about the future, who care about the planet. And even here, in this room of conscientious and technologically savvy people, nearly nobody is paying attention to the energy used and the energy wasted in their home. So it's not as easy as we think. That's true. Feedback loops. So what does that mean? 400 billion, that's the number of dollars that are wasted every year in the US from people wasting energy. Energy that is just wasted. This is according to McKinsey. 640 billion pounds in Europe. So what is 90? 90 is the good news. 90 is the percentage of people who think saving energy is a good idea and that wasting energy is a bad idea. 6. 6 is the number of minutes, according to Accenture, that the average consumer in the industrialized world, 6 minutes, spend thinking about their energy use every year. 6 minutes. I spend more time thinking about Justin Bieber. So here's the challenge, right? We have a huge, massive problem, and I haven't even talked about the environmental impact of that number. And a huge opportunity of people who are motivated to do the right thing, but aren't spending the time and don't have the wherewithal to do it. And why is that? Well, it's boring. Energy data is boring, uninteresting. It's inexpensive. In the US, 1.7% of the average household spending goes to electricity. 1.7%. In the UK, it's a bit higher. But even here, the opportunity to cut your usage by 5% or 10% doesn't get anybody out of bed in the morning. After all, you have your health to think about, your children, those financial statements, and Justin Bieber. It's also confusing. We know what a gallon of gasoline is, or a liter of petrol. What is a kilowatt hour? And why do I care? To put this in context, 80% of people, actually I shouldn't say this, how many people are staying at the hotel? Of you guys at the hotel, how many of you turned off the heating control when you left your room this morning? Okay, so again, right, 80% of people leave their house without turning off their air conditioning or heating. It's even more complicated than the VCR that Asa showed to program. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is there's just misconception. Most people think it's more efficient to leave the house sort of warmish, so when they come home, it doesn't need to use as much energy to heat it up. It's absolutely not true. More than 50% of people think that leaving the lights on, that turning off and on the lights actually consumes more energy than just leaving them on. So they leave the lights on when they leave rooms. People are shaking their head. Of course, we know this is crazy, but this is what people think. And we have no reason to care enough to behave differently. So how do we fix this? And this is where we got our start. David didn't say this, but I used to run political campaigns, and almost exclusively losing political campaigns. So approximately 5 years ago, I decided that I wanted to try and do something else, and was particularly interested in energy and environmental issues. So my partner and I decided to look into what we could do to change the way people use energy. And we were appointed by the Hewlett Foundation to a study that was done in San Marcos, California. San Marcos is 50 miles east of San Diego. It looks nothing like the weather here. This was an experiment we did in July where everybody had their air conditioning on. Homeowners, renters, wealthy, poor, young, old, everybody has an air conditioning. And we wanted to see how we could motivate people to turn off the air conditioning and turn on the fans. We did focus groups, we did surveys, we asked people what they thought would motivate them, and then we actually ran a field experiment in which we trained graduate students on how to read electric meters, a dangerous task. We fed them coffee and donuts and sent them out every Saturday morning for 4 consecutive weeks to thousands of homes in the neighborhood. And for each house in the neighborhood, we delivered a single message, and we delivered that same message every week for 4 weeks. And we had a control group that got no message at all. So one group of customers, one group of homeowners got a message that said, did you know you could save $50 a month by turning off your air conditioning and turning on your fans? Another group got a message, help protect the environment, keep San Marcos beautiful, turn off your AC, turn on your fans. Third group, be a good citizen, help prevent brownouts, turn off your AC, turn on your fans. By a show of hands, which do you think was most effective? Who thinks it was the money saving? Who thinks it was the environmental message? A few true believers. And how about brownouts? You're all wrong. That wasn't fair. These things had zero impact on consumption. We gave graduate students a useful skill. We fed people coffee and donuts. But we didn't change the way people use energy in their homes. There was a fourth message, however, that 1/4 of the homes got that simply said, when surveyed, 76% of your neighbors said that they turn off their air conditioning and turn on their fans. Join them, turn off your air conditioning, turn on your fans. 6% drop in consumption. Every week for 4 weeks, we delivered this message, 6% drop in overall consumption. Now, I became a dad 5 months ago. I haven't yet told my daughter that it doesn't matter what her friends do or what her neighbors do, that I'm her dad and it only matters what I say. But it's only a matter of time before I tell her that. It turns out as parents, and we all have them, we're fighting a losing battle. We have 500 million years of evolutionary history that are training us to model our behavior on others. And the evidence of this is apparent elsewhere. So who's seen these? Household recycling bins, right? When these programs were first started in the mid-'80s or the early '80s in the US, people thought it was going to be a fad. And in fact, planning was done to increase capacity in dumps because people thought there's no way people would still continue recycling. Turns out not a fad at all. And why is it not a fad? Because of the feedback loop that Asa talked about earlier. Every Tuesday when I leave my house, I see everybody else has their bin out. And I don't want to be the one idiot on my block. I'm an idiot for other reasons, but I don't want to be the one idiot that's obvious to everybody on my block who didn't put out his bin, right? And there's plenty of evidence elsewhere. When it comes to energy usage, however, sorry, I don't know which way I'm going. Regardless, when it comes to energy usage, our usage was a black box. I'm going to actually try and go backwards. There we go. Until we started the company. Now, there are, as David mentioned, over 10 million households in the US who have access to this information, how their energy consumption compares to similar homes in their area. 3.5 million of those customers from utilities get these in the mail, reports that show them how their usage compares. And it turns out to be tremendously motivating. But saving energy is not like household recycling in one very important way. With household recycling, it's easy to know what to do. You need to be prompted to do it, but you need to just put all of your recyclables in a bin and stick it out in front. When it comes to saving energy in your house, there are all kinds of misconceptions to clear up, and there are hundreds of things that each person could do to save energy in their house. We already described that people spend 6 minutes a year thinking about this, so getting people to do a list of 100 things is pointless. Eyes glaze over and things get tossed. So behavioral science is not enough. And when we started work, we looked to companies that did an excellent job at targeting recommendations. And Amazon, I think, stands out. I know there's somebody in the audience from Amazon, and I didn't know that when I put the slide together. But Amazon sells over 1 million products on their website. Each of us gets an email often from them. None of those emails are a digest of the 1 million products they sell. They're emails with recommendations specifically for us, based on what we've purchased in the past, what we look at, what other people like us have bought, and they're quite good. Now, there aren't millions of things you could do to change the way you use energy in your house, but there are hundreds, and we've already established that saving energy is far less exciting than shopping. So it's crucial to use data to drive recommendations. So here's a couple of ways in which we do this. We take the data from utilities, we combine it with temperature and humidity data on an hourly basis from thousands of weather stations, and we begin to pull out for each customer where are their big opportunities to save. For this customer, they may be efficient overall, but when it comes to heating their house, on the coldest days of the year, they're using 37% more energy than their neighbors. This is where they should be focusing their attention. Online, there are all kinds of tools to help them identify these key spots. And then we lubricate the action by giving them offers to help them save. Here's for insulation. So we've established two ways in which we can get people to change their behavior. One is behavioral science, giving people context to understand their consumption. The second is by doing the work of analyzing data. There's a competing school of thought that all you need to do is give people real-time access to their energy data, a dashboard in their house that shows them an EKG of their energy use, and people will automatically start saving. The reality is people don't have the time to make sense of that. What matters is the analysis of that data, and it's incumbent upon the energy suppliers to provide that analysis. So one last example I'm going to show of something that we're doing to get people to change their energy use is prompting action when it counts. So the call I got from my credit card company asking me if it was really me that spent 1,500 pounds on clotted cream when I arrived in London. We have all received those calls, maybe not for clotted cream, and maybe I'll change that after seeing the last presentation. But fraud detection is nothing new, right? My cell phone company sends me a text message when I'm about to run over my allotted plan. This is a value-added service. My bank tells me if I'm overdrawing on a checking account and helps me adjust it. My utility does none of those things. Now, with the advent of smart meters, there's the opportunity to do it. So today, we're sending alerts to people, text message, email, phone calls, that tell them over the last 5 days, your usage is twice what it usually is. Let's not wait till the end of the billing period, 3 months out, to tell somebody that they had a high bill. Let's send a message today that says you're on track for a bill that's 30% higher than normal, right? Because we're not going to get people to pay attention all of the time. What's important is making sure they're paying attention when it counts, when it matters, when something is unusual. The good news is that it's coming together. So this is our vision. It's not the only vision for what that interface should look like for the utility. It's reports that come regularly that show people analysis of their usage and give them opportunities to save. It's online tools. It's tariff schemes to give people choices of better tariffs and rates to use. It's an alerts platform that we already described. It's new sensible home energy management. I control now my thermostat from my iPhone, not by reading a manual and having magnifying glasses, right? It's the design that matters. It's tools for the utility itself. We don't love utilities. I'm sure there's a room full of people here who don't like their utility. But when it comes to providing energy information, they're the most credible source. And importantly, they have the obligation to provide this information. So this becomes a crucial interface as well. Better tools to help the utilities provide information. And it works. We've been at it. These things disappeared. But we're working with 65 utilities. I think maybe in customs these got taken from me. And we're learning and improving every day. From an impact perspective, we are saving, as David mentioned, now typically around 4% for the average household. 4% doesn't sound like a lot. It isn't when it comes to any single one house. But to be able to do that from a standing start across millions of homes, which is what we're able to do now, it has a substantial impact. Over the last 3 years, we've saved people $55 million on their energy bills. in the next 12 months, we will save customers more than $110 million on their energy bills. And that's not all. I think that these numbers are more exciting, and I should probably provide context. 96% of people receive these communications from their utility and recall getting them and say that they're helpful. 55% of people keep them. This is the craziest thing. People get these reports in the mail from their utility. They actually put them on the refrigerator. They hole punch them and keep them in a binder so that they can begin to keep track of their energy use and make smarter decisions. 65% of people share these with their friends and neighbors. All of a sudden, you have a communication from your utility that makes you feel empowered, gives you a sense of control over something you felt no control over in the past, and you feel compelled to share this with others. And importantly, because it's not just about changing people's day-to-day behavior in their homes, which is what that 3 to 4% energy savings are coming from, we're driving substantial increases in the adoption of new energy-saving technologies. So this is 35 to 60% acceleration in purchase of hardware, insulation, new air conditioning, new heating systems that make people's homes more efficient. And we're nothing if not ambitious. You invited Americans here. If we were to go global, it would be the equivalent of shutting down more than 200 coal power plants. It would it would be the equivalent of removing the emissions equivalent to 300 million flights between New York and London. It's a lot of clotted cream. And it would be enough energy to take all of the homes in the UK off the grid. But not just the UK. Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Belgium, Netherlands, all these homes off the grid simply by providing people with better information. So that's what we do. We're eager for advice and better ideas about how we can use this information. I'm confident that the future will involve more energy savings and less Justin Bieber. And thanks very much for having me.